What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the We the Dreamers podcast. I'm Kate Voegele. This is my sister, Courtney Elliott, and we're really excited to be hanging out for another episode. This is the fourth one that we've done so far, and it always gets more fun every time. And we always have a new technical difficulty every time, right?
This was totally my fault. I did not update my computer, and I don't even want my dad to hear this because he's going to be very disappointed in me, but it was a whole thing. So,
our dad
we're working with what we have, but
yeah, he's very passionate about updating your technology, which I think just means he's like a responsible
I see
person.
why.
Yeah,
like I
100%.
literally can't do anything on my desktop now because I failed to update, honestly, probably for like 3 years. So these are the disadvantages of not living across the street like I did from Dad in DC.
I know, that's right. You had the and it really does, there's just, you know how some people just know things? Like, Dad just knows stuff about, technology and, how it works.
Yeah.
And, Brett, my husband, he just knows stuff about, he can watch a new type of game that he didn't, grow up playing. Like, if it was, some Australian football or something, something that has very different rules, and he will just understand how it works, almost immediately. It's just how he's programmed. He just understands it. And, I feel like Lee, your husband, is like that too. He has he probably some sort of coding language. I can see Lee being like, oh, I see how this works,
Yeah, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a skill I should know. We were FaceTiming, and I was like, where do I click software updates? And you were like a freaking Genius Bar employee. You knew exactly what to do.
I think you're
impressed.
just running an older version of, I will say, though, something that's annoying and that isn't your fault is that they update this stuff, so often, to the point where, and then everything gets moved around, and so it's and then also I feel whatever, there's a little bit conspiracy theorist, but I sort of feel like there's a very real, programmed obsolescence vibe where, all technology, phones, I swear to God, the minute my phone hit being a year old, the battery started, tanking, a lot faster. I don't know.
That's why I was like, I'm worried that it's going to die mid-podcast, but,
You know what?
We'll see what happens.
We're just coasting with it. We're just doing our damn best, as one does. Yeah.
Yes.
But no, it's fun. We're excited to chat today. We're gonna get to be together soon for the holidays, but it's always cool to get to see you across the country. Courtney lives in New York. I live in LA. For anybody who's new, we're bi-coastal sisters, sharing all kinds of inspiration for a well-designed life and space, and just generally kind of having conversations about random stuff. But we're always excited for the next time we get to hang in person.
Yeah, I know. I'm pumped.
It's gonna be a good time.
It'll be a good change of scenery, which actually kind of goes along with what we're talking about today. Because it's almost winter. It's already getting dark at 4:15 here.
Absurd. It really is, isn't it?
I know. I'm I thought for the last 5 years we were about to cancel daylight savings. I thought it got canceled, but we aren't. We're still going with it.
Still here. Still.
Yeah.
I feel like every year, when there's some sort of election, people are like, it passed, daylight savings is done, it's over. And it's one of those rumors where you're it just keeps happening and we keep having to do it. So.
Yeah.
It's
honestly so confusing. I know. I'm I thought for the last 5 years, it's been the last year of daylight savings.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm I will believe it when I see it. This is trash. But
yeah, exactly.
But that was a very well done segue, because like you said, a change of scenery is one of it's kind of one of the things that we're talking about today, because we're having a conversation all about how to get motivated when you're feeling blah or stuck or just just unmotivated. And I feel like this time of year, especially when it's, in a lot of parts of the world, it's really cold and it's dark and it's kind of it can be really heavy. And so it can be hard to get motivated just in general, but I feel like this time of year, it's definitely, even more difficult. So even if you're listening to this and it's not winter anymore, I feel like these tips will still be relevant to getting motivated in general. But I just feel like we all need that extra boost during the seasons where it's like the cozy. What is that like meme that's like, I want to be the cozy toad in a blanket season, or like that's not a toad in a blanket, it's like a recipe.
Honestly, it is toad in a blanket season. Like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, there is some type of like cartoon that I think
I'm
people
like
refer
Googling it.
to.
Like hot girl, it was like something after hot girl summer. And when someone was
Cozy
like,
Toad
yes, hold on.
Winter.
I have Googled it because I was like, I can't continue until I, oh yeah, here we go. Okay. Hot girl summer is ending. Toad in bed winter approaches.
Oh, oh,
Toad in bed
absolutely.
winter, which is
I've
really
already, yeah,
not great, like considering we're trying to talk about how to not spend the entire winter in bed today, but nonetheless, it's really, it shows and it demonstrates how much all of us are tempted to
yes.
just embrace the toad in bed winter in all of us. Like that is really um a normal thing, I think. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and I
but
think it's about like striking a balance between like, okay, embracing the slowness of the season, but
yeah,
also like pushing yourself to get in motion, which I think is like the first thing that we
yeah,
want to talk about is like if you're mentally at a standstill, like just somehow get in motion, like take the first step, which can be the hardest
totally.
thing.
Yeah, 100%. It is the hardest thing. It's always the hardest thing. Like, I always am like, the starting is the hardest part, like, all respect to Tom Petty, the waiting sucks as well, but like, the starting
Yeah.
is the hardest part, especially when you're like bummed out or you're feeling like depressed or anxious or just like generally like unmotivated. It's really the hardest part of getting unstuck is just like the very first step. And so I think like that is usually the thing that helps me the most too, is just like, and this isn't like necessarily something where it has to be like, go run a 5K outside in the freezing cold. Like if that's your thing, definitely, like I do think just getting sweaty in any possible way can help. But like I think truly just getting up and moving to a different room, or like, you know going and taking your laptop to a coffee shop if you are having writer's block on the stuff that you're trying to work on at home, like just changing your scenery, moving to a different space, even if it's literally a different chair in the room that you're in, right? Like, do you feel like that helps you?
Oh, absolutely. And I think like, yeah, for me, I'm definitely not the kind of person who's like, oh, I'm gonna go run a 5K to get in motion. Like if
Same.
I in the winter time, unless I have to walk my dog or like go to the store, I don't want to leave the house. So like something I did like preemptively, I guess is the word, for this winter is I got like this tiny little standing elliptical machine. It's literally just like the feet part of an elliptical machine. And it doesn't
Cool.
make any noise because we don't have room in our apartment for like a Peloton or something, an actual elliptical machine. And I don't want to like get a gym membership because it's expensive, and that also
Oh yeah.
requires leaving the house. So I got this like little elliptical machine, and I've been doing it only for like 15 minutes so far a day. But I'm like, okay, this switches up my routine a little bit.
Yeah.
I can bring it; it's portable, so I can bring it into different rooms. And so that's kind of been something I'm like, okay, I know I'm gonna need this winter because unless I'm walking the dog, like I don't want to go. I mean, I should get outside more, like it's good. But if it's freezing, I'm just like, I can't. So
Yeah.
stuff like that, like that's something I'm like, okay, I'm like preparing now because it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, it gets, and I also love that you said you only did it for like, you're just like, I'm starting with 15 minutes, because I think sometimes it can be really hard to get motivated to do the elliptical thing, even though like you bought it so that it could help you ultimately feel more energized to be motivated to like do other stuff and to, like work on whatever projects you have to work on or you're excited to work on for fun. Like sometimes like taking like getting motivated to do just that thing that's supposed to be the thing that helps you get motivated. It is hard, but it helps a lot to know, okay, I'm just going to do 15 minutes, or like, it's just going to be the foot thing. And I'm just going to try this for like a small amount of time. And then usually you end up being like, oh, wow, I'm glad I did it. But it's easier to buy in when you're not like, I have blocked out an hour today to do the elliptical, you know, because that can feel so daunting.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like that's something that I've been trying to do, but also, like you said, changing your scenery is huge for me. And I think like your space, and you're a huge advocate of this, is like your space plays such an important role in
Yeah,
like your overall vibe and like mental health. And so even just changing that up, I think
yeah,
could make a difference.
totally. Changing, like for me, our house is like smaller than your apartment. It's a very, very small little bungalow and it's great, but it sometimes is like easy for it to feel like, you know, both me and Brett work mostly from home and it can feel sometimes like, oh my gosh, this is, you know, harder to like think creatively or get motivated to work on something I've been putting off because I'm just looking at the same view that I see every day on my desk. And so sometimes it's literally a thing of like, let's change out the photos in the photo frames, you know, that are above my desk, or like I'm going to work, like sometimes we switch offices. Like I'm like his office
Yeah.
is way better natural light and we'll switch, or you know, or go to a coffee shop or whatever. And so I do think that like just telling yourself, if I change my scenery, doesn't have to cost anything, it doesn't have to be like going super far or whatever. Like sometimes if I tell myself like, oh, I think if I do this, it's gonna help, and then that will spark a little motivation for me to be like, okay, it might help, so let me just try and let me not commit to needing to get the project done once I change my scenery. But I'm just gonna change the scenery first and see what happens. Or I'm gonna take my dog for a walk and see what happens, you know. But yeah, I like the idea of I think we also talked about how like changing your scenery can be like figurative. Like it doesn't have to be literal. It can be like a
Yeah.
proverbial, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think something we were talking about was like even just changing your outfit. Like for me,
Mm-hmm.
full disclosure, like the last few weeks, you know, I work from home. I've been wearing like leggings and like a
Yeah.
big button down and
Yeah.
like every day. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like depressing. I have like
Yeah.
cute clothes that I don't wear. And so the past couple days, I've been trying to, even though I have nobody to see, I've been trying to like wear something just like slightly cuter. Like I don't, it still is comfy. Like I told you, like all my jeans and pants are like ultra stretch because I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna like suffocate while I'm writing
Oh
an
no.
article on my
Absolutely not.
couch.
Yeah.
But it has really helped me just feel a lot more motivated and just like mentally better. How do you feel like figuratively changing your scenery like manifests for you?
Yeah. I mean, definitely changing my outfit. And I do think that I've learned that even though it can feel like a pain in the ass to like get ready and look cute, like I'm not saying like I wash and curl my hair every day or like I wear my glasses a lot instead of putting in contacts because like, you know, putting in contacts is a huge pain sometimes. But like, I do think that I've learned that it helps me feel more like myself if I put on something that makes me feel cute, even if it's like a baggy ass jumpsuit that's like super, super comfy. Like it doesn't have to be like, you know, super fancy or uncomfortable, like work type clothes. You know what I mean? Or like they don't have to be clothes that are necessarily something that I think is going to make me look super hot. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm going to put on something that like the male gaze is going to think is, you know, super sexy. Like it's like what makes me feel like me. And I did an exercise a while ago. I think it was like um a book called The Curated Closet that I'm trying to remember the author. I'll definitely put it in the show notes, but it's like a great book that helps you just figure out like what your personal style is, what you actually like to wear, what makes you feel like yourself. And then yeah, I learned that that really does help me. So I've started trying that because it just it's a small flip. But I also think something else that works for me in terms of like a proverbial scenery change or like, you know, less sort of literal scenery change is like changing the background on my phone or changing the desktop picture on my laptop, like, or whatever computer you work on. It is a magical, like all the possibilities in the world open up when I change my desktop picture. Like, do you
Yeah.
feel this way? Yeah.
Honestly, I still have my laptop from my old job. They like gave it to us
Huh.
when we left, and it's still just the background it came on. And I've been meaning to change it. I'm like, this is depressing. And it's like some like ugly graphic, and I'm like, I
How is it
can't.
still that?
I know. And then the background on my phone, like not my lock screen, but the background on my phone, I believe is the same picture I took the picture in like 2011 when we were on tour together, and I have not changed it.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
so
I
I
can
need to
see
do
you
this.
kind of be, well, sometimes I get nervous where I'm like, what if I don't like this? What if I miss the old one? But then you're
Or I'm
like,
like,
I can
what
put
if
it
the
back.
vibes are off? Yeah. No, but
Right.
now
The
I'm like, I
vibe.
don't know where that picture is from 2011. So like, if I change it, I lose it
Oh
forever.
shit, you lose it.
It was like in Portland. So I'm like, knowing me, I haven't updated any of my devices. The picture's long gone from 2011. It's
Yeah,
just
dude,
flowers.
you gotta get some device update. Like this is your 2024. Like we need a smart
No,
goal for you to like, and it's so funny because you're so much more like type A than I am. So
I
I'm
know.
shocked because you're so much more like dad in that sense, you know, and I tend to be like kind of scatterbrained, like ADD, like, you know, artist, crazy. And I feel like it surprises me so much that you procrastinate updating your devices to the point
Listen,
where they're
I don't
not
even do
working.
it. It's like I don't. It's not like I procrastinate. I don't do it. It's horrible. It's so bad. Like what do I need to? So
Mom doesn't do it either. Yeah, like
I know
it's
mom and I are the
so
same.
funny.
We're just like, because I'm like, oh, the second I need to update it, I'm like, well, I'm using it. I can't. And then when I'm done,
Oh
I'm
my
like, I
God.
gotta go. You know, gotta
Right, you got
turn off.
shit to do. It is annoying. Like, Dad made me a calendar invite like 10 years ago to like back up my laptop on a hard
I need
drive,
to.
which is a
You gotta add
similar
me to that shit.
technology admin thing because I had a laptop that crashed in 2010 with all this important shit on it that I had never backed up.
Yeah.
And I lost it and it's gone and all the shit is gone and he was like, yeah, you have to like back that up. So anyways, in addition to updating your devices and backing up your data, it's also a game changer to change your phone background. And now Apple has a whole thing if you use an iPhone. I'm sure the other ones do too, because they're always like even farther ahead of Apple with like their fanciness, you know, like all the Samsung ones can like take you to the moon, I feel like. But you can like toggle between different backgrounds. So if you
Oh, that's
decide
fun.
like, or different lock screens. So if you're like, I'm not feeling this today, it really does change the game. I use an app called Millinote to make like a little vision board or like I don't know. I guess it's a vision board, but it's also kind of like just a little simple collage. Like I try to do it every season of the year, and I'll basically just like go onto Pinterest and like drag images that like are inspiring me and that like kind of look good together. Like it'll be simple. It'll be like a quote, maybe like a cool, you know, image of, you know, an like an art piece, like a picture, like just cool shit that I find on Pinterest that like looks good together where the colors match, and I'll just put them like five or six of them like on a blank like ivory background, you know, in
Yeah.
this app Millinote, and then I'll export it as a PDF and then like make that my
Well,
or a
that's
JPEG or
cool.
whatever. Yeah, and make that my computer background. I'm telling you, it has really done wonders.
I
It
like
helps.
that.
And
I
then
like
whenever
that.
I have a new one, there's just this new energy. When I open my computer, I'm like, oh, like it's a vibe. I don't know. So also like music, I think a lot of people, you know, if I'm writing, I can't really listen to a ton of music, especially if it has like lyrics. But a lot of people love to work with like music in the background or just whatever. And I do think like just trying a new playlist like is a great way to like proverbially like change the scenery, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I feel like when I used to like work in corporate America and we would have brainstorms, we would always brainstorm different playlists. And I remember being like, "Oh, this is definitely like getting the juices going." So I think that applies
Yeah.
to just life in general too. No, I definitely agree. It's just like little things, little changes that can
Yeah,
go a long way.
it does. It just like helps you see everything from a different angle, like changing the angle from which you see the world, like even if it's just in the tiniest way, can spark something and just get you unstuck initially, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I feel like we also always talk about how just doing the smallest, tiniest possible thing can like really be a good catalyst for giving you the confidence to be like, oh, maybe this task that I've been putting off or this thing that I'm trying to get motivated to do isn't so daunting, you know? Like, I feel like you talked about this a lot, especially during like when we would chat during like lockdowns and stuff, like
Yeah.
you were really good at being like, I just literally put down my phone and I get up and I just start walking and I see where I go and I just do something, even if it's like, I'm going to rinse out my coffee mug. That, like, is that,
Yeah.
am I remembering that right?
Yeah, for sure. It had like it was applied to just doing like if it's a little chore like emptying the dishwasher or even like walk around until you find one of your hobbies that you want to do. I think just taking one tiny step can apply to a lot of different areas, whether it's going to empty the dishwasher or going to find one of your hobbies. I think having options for yourself is a good idea. Like for me, I just got like a little beginner embroidery kit. I'm like, I know I'm going to need stuff to do in my spare time. And yeah, I just will be like, okay, I'm going to get up and I can't sit down until I decide to do something besides like look at my phone or lay on the couch.
Yeah.
And so I think just like you said, taking the smallest step, what's the tiniest possible thing I could do? And then ultimately, I think a lot of the times that serves as a catalyst and it kind of snowballs into like, oh, cool. Now I'm getting in like the flow with this hobby, or okay,
Yeah.
now I'm going to go like put in laundry since I'm already up and I did the dishes. So I think just like starting, somewhere with something tiny, at least you can tell yourself, okay, I did something, I accomplished something.
Right. It builds like confidence. Like I feel like that's why they always say people who make their bed first thing in the morning, which you are a bed maker every day, I
Um,
feel like.
Funny you should say that because I stopped for the last like 4 months, just stopped
Whoa.
because I like didn't ever sit in here because I would just like sit out in our family room and work on my freelance stuff. And so I stopped. And up until yesterday, I started making our bed again, first thing. And I did it
Whoa.
today. And so now I'm trying to rebuild that habit. But I like stopped because I was like, I'm never in there. Who cares? And then like it got disastrous. And I was like, this is mentally making me go absolutely insane. So like 2 days ago, I like completely cleaned the whole thing, like donated 2 bags of clothes, all this stuff. And now I'm like, oh, I'm a literal new person. And now I'm like hanging up art on the wall and I want to be in
Yeah.
here. So
Right.
it
So
like,
all of
yeah,
a
it
sudden,
snowballs.
because you
Yeah.
wanted to get motivated to like decorate your bedroom more, but it's like you need to just do that tiny thing first in order for it to snowball into, yeah, like I never used to be a bed maker and I've started doing it because I realized like, oh, this helps me. And so that's another thing that I feel like I have to remind myself what
Yeah.
helps me because we forget or like it's, when you're unmotivated, when you feel stuck, you don't feel like doing anything, especially something that's like a chore, right? Because you're like, oh, woof, like I'm unmotivated. I don't want to go make my bed. Why would I? Who cares? I'm not even going to be in there until I go to sleep. But like what I will do is literally have a note in my phone, like in the app that's like, here are little things that don't take a ton of effort that really improve my mental health when I do them. And like, so then sometimes if I'm feeling stuck or unmotivated, I'll open that note and look and just pick one of the things. And like making my bed is one of them. Watering my plants is one of them, which like it's funny because I always dread doing it before I do it. And then while I'm doing it, it's always like so calming and relaxing. And I think there's like some sort of, I'm going to sound really stupid here because there's like a scientific way to frame this, but I think there is some characteristic of like soil that actually is like very like helpful to our mental health, like something
Oh,
about like
cool.
the smell or like working with soil, which like makes sense because the world is like amazing and fascinating, right? Like I feel like that's kind of related to the grounding thing where a lot of people like swear by like standing on like just the grass or the dirt in your bare feet for like a couple minutes. And I'm not like a super woo woo like type person, but I definitely like I'm very much someone who believes like all things in nature are super connected and like it totally doesn't surprise me that there is, I'll have to like look it up, but I do think that there is some scientific research about like something about the properties of soil or the characteristics of soil, like us interacting with it. There is something about that that is like that is positive for our mental health, and it's a real thing. Like I swear to God, even if I just take one plant and I water it, there is something like you feel like, oh, I'm caring for something, or I'm, you know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
then accomplishing that just small thing helps me feel more confident that, like, oh, well, maybe I could tackle the first step of like that blog post, or like maybe I could respond to that email that I've been completely dreading that's been giving me anxiety at 4 in the morning for the last month. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. If I could keep plants alive, I would definitely get some because now we have some sunlight in our apartment, but also my dog is at like high risk for eating
He
them.
would eat
So I
them.
feel like I am not going to dabble with that until I can assure myself that he's not. But I do believe that because when I have had plants, I felt like, I don't know, they have like a calming, and I think it's just like good for the home environment in terms of like the air quality and stuff.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So I'll definitely put that on my list. I think there's a lot of little ways that you can just take tiny steps, and they end up like compounding, and then you just feel more accomplished. Like even if it's like, okay, I'm gonna unload the dishwasher, then I can sit on my phone for 15 minutes, fine. At
Yeah.
least I did something. So
Right. Or even just doing something that you feel like doing, you know, which a lot of times is like, because I'm a horrible procrastinator. And I feel like a lot of times I will put off something that I have no motivation to do, but that's really important because I'll be like, well, you know, I have to return these sweaters to the store, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and even though I totally have like 3 more weeks to return them, but sometimes just being like, okay, I'm going to give myself an hour. I'm not going to dilly dally around and like go to a bunch of other stores and try a bunch of shit on. Like if I'm at the mall, I'm going to go return these sweaters because it'll feel good to know like, great, those are returned and the money's coming back to my credit card. And but I'm only going to give myself an hour. And I'll be like, great, I feel like doing that right now because it's, you know, a fun thing to go to a store or whatever. And it's always satisfying to like get your money back after something didn't work. But I only give myself an hour. And then sometimes it's like I'll come home and I'll feel like, okay, that's off my list. And even though it's not an important thing on my list per se, I got something off my list. And so now I'm like, all right, you know, I don't know. I do think that that helps. Sometimes you just get up and move in the direction of something, accomplish something, even if it's tiny, even if it's dumb, and that like kind of, you know, changes the game. So
yeah. No, I totally agree. It's definitely something I'm gonna take a page out of your book and make a note in my phone just of those things because I feel like sometimes my brain doesn't really know what to do with myself. So
yeah, making a note. Like the other thing, I feel like another thing that's on my list of things that make me feel better is like just getting inspired, you know? Like I'll
yeah,
watch a video from one of my favorite creators, you know, even if it's not like an advice video or a life video, you know? It's like, I mean, like I'll just watch like a video of somebody, you know, painting a mural or like um you know, something that just makes me reminds me of the stuff that I enjoy, of the stuff that's important to me, of, you know, because I think a lot of times what happens to me is when I'm not motivated to do something, you know, that's related to work or that's related to creativity. And it's like, those are sometimes it's actually harder to get motivated to do something important and creative than it is to get motivated to like make a dentist appointment or like deal
right.
with your taxes or something, you know, like because those are things you kind of have to do. You're like, well, I have to call the tax lady back because like otherwise like the US government is like going to get involved and it's going to be a big bummer. You know
yeah,
what I mean? But it's harder to get motivated to finish a song that I know is important to me, but I'm scared that I'm not gonna, you know, be able to. I'm scared. It's usually related to fear, right? When I'm not motivated. So it's like, yeah. So sometimes doing something or just engaging with something that's inspiring to me helps me sort of get a little closer to being able to work on something creative? Like, what do you feel like are the things that you do when you're looking for inspiration to like get
Yeah, that's a
motivated?
good question. I feel like for me, it has a lot to do. This sounds like maybe sounds dumb and nerdy, but like anything related to animals, like I'll watch animal
Love that.
videos. Like
I love
sometimes
that.
Planet Earth gets too dark because it's like the lion now has eaten the,
Oh,
fox, and you're like, I'm gonna die. I'm
like the
so
cute
sad.
fox that they established. Like you love the fox, you've named the fox, you saw the fox's
Yeah.
babies, and then they're like, the predator is close.
Yeah,
And
then
that was
it's
a
like,
bad David
and
Attenborough
it's like
accent that I
dinner.
just did.
Yeah, and you're just like, I am crying my eyes out.
Yeah, you're like,
But
cool, I'm depressed now.
yeah, yeah. So like I'll look up like cute dog videos or something, or like honestly just like playing with my dog. Like he's a dog that like needs a lot of playing time, and like sometimes we can't always give him like I feel like it's always I end up feeling so much better when we're playing if I give him my like undivided attention rather than like, oh,
Yeah.
here's throw the ball, look at my phone, scroll Instagram, oh, like let me throw the ball. It's like if I'm fully engaged with him and like chasing him and playing him with him and I'm not like on my phone or like simultaneously watching reruns of like Sex in the City, then like
Yeah.
I can just tell that like I don't know, it makes me more inspired. I can tell that like he can tell I'm engaged. So I feel like just getting inspired most of the time for me looks like probably chilling and playing with my dog, or just like
I love
chatting with
that.
someone, like calling a friend or calling you or mom or dad,
Yeah,
um, and just like because when you work from home, you don't really have that like built-in social life that you get when you have like coworkers, and
totally.
so I feel like you kind of have to like manufacture that a little bit. So
No,
I
that's
think
such a
that's
good
probably it.
point. I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah, I think that's so true too. Like just leaning on talking to somebody else and just like for no reason, just chatting, catching up with a friend or something can for sure like shift something for you. Like, because it's like just having somebody else's perspective or just asking somebody something about their own life and hearing somebody, tell you a funny story about like something from their life, that does like sort of just create movement in a way, and I think the whole idea of getting motivated is just about trying to figure out how to change, the fact that you're in a stagnant state in any tiny way, and not like putting pressure on yourself too. Like I think that's another thing that I like really am trying to get better at because I am so hard on myself. But I think that, there's a lot of aspects of like hustle culture and girl boss culture and all this bullshit and like productivity. Like there's a lot of like toxic productivity advice out there that
yeah.
sort of makes you feel really ashamed if you ever do get stuck or if you ever do feel unmotivated or shitty or blah. And it's like that's really normal. It's really normal. Everybody feels that way. And it's probably your body or your mind trying to tell you that you're a little bit burned out. So you have to be like kind to yourself and just allow yourself to feel that way too, and
Yeah.
not put pressure on yourself to like getting motivated is not like a super I don't feel like it's a switch flip. It shouldn't be, because I think that's like sort of a toxic like way to look at it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like finding a balance between, you know, doing the things that get you unstuck, taking those little steps, but also giving yourself grace for the days when you do need to be the toad in bed.
Totally. The toad in
Yeah.
bed is a mood, and it's like that is what you need to recharge and be able
Yeah.
to get up the next day. Like even yesterday was like one of those really rainy LA days, which like we don't get many of them, but when we get them, you just like really sometimes feel it extra because you just sort of when you live here for 15 years, you sort of just expect it to be sunny every day. And I'm somebody who loves that. Some people get sick of it and like love when there's a rainy day. But I'm always
No.
like, oh my God, like it totally changes my mood and stuff. And it's kind of one of those things where it was like I didn't get a whole lot done, but I did handle some like administrative life stuff that I had to do, like for boring tax stuff that I didn't want to do, but I had to. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself today to like be bummed that it's rainy, and I am going to put off a couple things that I'm not motivated to do, but I'm going to get a couple small things done. And then tomorrow I'm going to, I'm going to really try to take that small first step towards
Yeah.
whatever it is, and it helped. It helped to not beat myself up and be like, I'm such a piece of shit that I'm feeling unmotivated. It's like that never is the way toward, you know, like beating yourself up doesn't help you get motivated to then go do something that's good for you.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that just gives you the energy to like, start the next day and knock out some things. Like for me, I also will just try to like split it up. Like if I have 5 things I need to do and I'm like, okay, today I'm just like not feeling it. I'll be like, okay, I'll do one of those things today and then like 2 of those things tomorrow and the rest, the next day. And I think like just blocking it out like that and not shitting on myself for having a day where I don't get a ton done, like that's okay and that's normal. Yeah, so just being able to give yourself grace, I feel like is huge, because I think that ultimately, like when you give yourself little breaks and you just like accept yourself for where you are, sometimes if you like, can't get out of a funk, I don't know. I just think like you said, it's hard to not be hard on yourself, but
Yeah, but
you
like
need to try.
liking yourself right where you're at really does, like,
Yeah.
really does help and change the game. Like I remember you said that in one of our earlier episodes when we were talking about like deciding your own definition of success. And for you, you were like, for me, success looks like just liking myself right where I'm at right now. And I loved it so much when you said it. And I still love that, just because I think it is very hard to get anything done of value and to be in the right headspace to get motivated to do whatever it is you need to do if you're constantly treating yourself like garbage. But I'm guilty of it every single day of my life. And, it's really one of those things where until you kind of realize like that just doesn't get you any farther, like it's going to be so much harder to get motivated, to get unstuck, because you are just, talking to yourself in a way that's really toxic. But it's really hard to step back and be self aware enough to realize, like, oh, I think I'm treating myself like shit again. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, the
so
fact that you can recognize that, I think, is the first step. And I think for me, what I just have to tell myself when I go to bed each night is like, what I did today, no matter what it was enough.
yeah,
And that's what we're going with, because I'm
we're
about to
going.
go to bed.
Yep.
So whatever we did today was enough,
I did my
and we'll pick
best.
up. Yeah, even if I didn't do my best,
Yeah,
it
it was what it was. I
it was
did.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, most of the days I try my best, but like, yeah.
Oh,
So
I
I think
totally don't try my best every single day. I mean, it's
no,
not
I don't either.
possible. I
Well,
think that,
I don't even know what my best is.
well,
What
for
is my
sure.
best? I don't even know.
And
But
I also think like my best sometimes it fluctuates, because some days, like, I think giving your best every single day or trying your best every day is not equivalent to being as productive as humanly possible. Like you can't equate, you know, your best, like every day being a best day. Like it can't be like, oh, it only qualifies as a day where I did my best if I got as much done as humanly possible. Because it's like that's not the point of life, always to be the most productive, you know, possible. It obviously you want to live an engaging life where you're, sort of really doing what it is that you feel like you want to do. You definitely, I think everybody wants to be in a place where they feel like they're living their life in a way that's meaningful to some degree, and whatever. But it's like there's so much that I think gets misconstrued in like the productivity hustle culture, that we live in. And I think it's important to be like, okay, yeah, some days I'm not motivated. Some days that's not the best I could have done, but that doesn't have to be like that every day. And it's totally fine to have days where it's like, that wasn't my best. I did
Yeah.
not give my best.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And I think like ulti- I think like ultimately the key for me is detaching my worth from my output.
So
Like
true.
that's not like those two things cannot be connected. Like my internal worth cannot be directly linked to how much I accomplished today
Yeah.
or in my life. And that's hard to do because a lot of people just
So hard.
naturally do that. So I think, yeah, I think this was helpful for me, especially going into the winter season. You know, here in New York, it's going to be really chilly and it's like going to be dark and cold until March. And so I think I just like try to go into this season with some plans and for how I'm going to address days where I feel unmotivated or stuck.
Yeah.
So this is honestly a really helpful conversation just for me personally as we like head into kind of a crazy season for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. I love what you said about detaching your worth from your productivity or what you get done or how much money you made this quarter or how many projects, how many clients you landed. Like that is my internal struggle with myself.
Yeah.
Like I struggle to do that so much, but I do think it gets easier to get motivated to do the stuff that you want to do or you need to do when you're like, this doesn't determine my worth in life. The outcome of this thing that I'm working on does not determine whether or not I'm a good person, whether or not I'm worthy of love, whether or not I'm good enough. Like, that's not, those two things are not correlated. It is just, this is the job that I need to do. This is the thing I need to do or I want to do, and I'm going to do it. But it doesn't, like, my self-worth isn't on the line. My validity as a human being is not on the line based on whether or not I get this done or how well I get it done. And that is the, I think, overall just takeaway, I think
Yeah.
is from, and then you're like, cool, okay, great, it's not that daunting. Like, I'll just do it and take the right next step and work towards it, and try to have fun and not worry about the outcome. I heard something this week where somebody said, like, the outcomes of the stuff that you work on aren't necessarily the things that bring you joy. It's a consistent commitment to craft every day
Mm.
that is the thing that brings you joy. I think it was a Cal Newport podcast. And I think he's like a productivity guru type thing. And a lot of people love his perspective on, like, I think he's the guy that has like the whole concept of deep work, of like blocking out time where you're like, I'm going to be in the zone and do deep work on whatever it is. And then blocking out time where you're not working on something that's like super, mentally taxing, where you need to go like into the zone. So I don't know much of his work, but I loved that
Yeah.
idea of like, oh, the thing that actually brings you joy and fulfillment isn't necessarily the outcomes and the accolades and the achievements that come from the stuff you're working on. It's the daily commitment to the craft of whatever that is. And so I think that is something I'm trying to remind myself of, because it can be really easy for me to be like, well, I just haven't had enough like wins this year. And so I'm not motivated to
Yes.
do shit because I didn't, hit enough. I didn't hit these numbers, or I didn't get enough, projects that I wanted. And, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It really is
I
like,
love that.
it's a whole thing. But yeah, this was like a great conversation. I feel a lot better already because I've been such a slump with this time of year. It's like the best. I love it. I love like the holiday season and stuff, but I also feel a lot of pressure, you know, um, to
Yeah.
have like this big plan of action for like how I'm gonna kick off the next year with, you know what I mean? And like, that's great. I think I'm all about like setting up your intentions, and some goals for the next year if that helps you. But, it's also like nice to just kind of enjoy and acknowledge that like it's okay to just like take a deep breath and not have to, and take that pressure off or whatever.
Yes, exactly. I think for a lot of people, this season comes with a lot of joy, a lot of nostalgia, but also a lot of anxiety and like self reflection. And I think that's really
Yeah.
normal. And um, yeah, I think ultimately just like giving yourself grace, not wrapping your worth in your productivity, and knowing that like it's okay to not have a perfect plan. I think that actually be a really interesting podcast for like the end of the year, just because even just for
Yeah.
my own self, it's helpful to talk about, because I know like you definitely can feel a lot of pressure going into, the next year to
Yes.
make like unrealistic resolutions and like drastically change specific parts of your life. And so I think, that's definitely something that would be interesting to talk about. But
Yes, we should do
yeah,
that. I had like a subject of an idea written down that was like goal setting advice for people sick of goal setting advice. And I feel like
yes,
that would be, we should
I
totally
need
make
that.
that a future podcast. So, yeah, so be on the lookout, guys. That will be coming soon because I'm excited already to have that conversation. And I'm just eternally, perpetually sick of conventional goal setting advice because I do think a lot of it's wrapped up in some of the same like toxic shit we've been talking about today. So, yeah, so I'm like, I'm ready to, I'm gonna make a vision board. I'm gonna, put on a new playlist today and be good to go. But it's such a great conversation that I feel like is always, applicable in some way or another. So definitely let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from our listeners. Like, how do you get motivated? Do you have any like small tricks that help you get unstuck? We'd love to hear it. It's definitely something that I think I can always use like more inspiration for how to kind of get myself motivated and excited, when I'm feeling in a slump or burned out or whatever. But thank you all so much for listening. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more podcast episodes and videos about decor, DIYs, and all that good stuff soon. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks so much.